This is the Deliberate Talks Weekly Podcast, powered by the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. Tune in every week to learn something new about digital marketing and entrepreneurship. And now, over to the voice of your host, Dakshin Adyanthaya. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and this is the Deliberate Talks Podcast Season 2, and today seems to be one hell of an energetic day because we have the powerhouse content creator Dan Thomas featuring on it. So gear up to a Monday that's going to be all about learning the hacks of Instagram with Dan and me, your host Dakshin Adyanthaya. But before that, here are some amazing facts about Instagram marketing. Did you know last year, over 1 million Instagram posts mentioning meme were shared each day? Mobile short story ads outperform studio shot ads by 63%. Also, only 1% of Instagram users use no other social media platform apart from Instagram. And finally, 130 million Instagram users tap on shopping post every month. And now, all this and more on the exciting tips and hacks up for discussion with our guest today. So on our show is someone who has grown from 0 to 20,000 followers on Instagram in just 9 months. With his unique blend of humor and highly practical learning for success, he has created productive examples of how the platform should be effectively used. Apart from this, he is a 5-time award-winning coach and a professional photographer. Here's introducing Dan Thomas. Hi Dan, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's always nice to I haven't been on a podcast for a while, so it's kind of nice to do something different.
It's absolutely amazing to have you on the Deliberate Talks podcast. And like I mentioned, I love your content and it's great to have your insights on the show today for our listeners. And Dan, I'm going to get straight into the content. Your posts are fantastic. And, in one of your posts, you did mention about the fact that your growth journey towards reaching 21,000 followers includes taking a fearless step and that you're still here doing it. But first, tell me a little bit about you and elaborate on what really went behind the growth journey.
Yeah. So my career kind of started in marketing. I used to work in financial services for banks, do direct mail distribution, email distribution over in marketing for Halifax Bank of Scotland. So we do sort of 3 to 5 million recipients a month, kind of in big campaigns and in branch campaigns and network campaigns. And then I moved into Lloyd's Banking Group when they got bought out and moved into their communications function, into their design team for a while, and then ultimately kind of settled in their collaboration team, which is where what I really, really got interested in was the behaviors that people express when they create and they work together, and how you can create communities in very large organizations and leverage very large scale communities to achieve, amazing things. So a lot of my knowledge and background comes from sort of understanding people's mindsets and behaviors and seeing how you can sort of shape those in your everyday.
Mm-hmm.
So my Instagram, I've been sort of dotting around social for some time. As a side hustle, I also work as a wedding photographer. So I run my own wedding photography business, as well as doing the consulting that I do in the day-to-day. And I now consult for very large-scale organizations externally. So in the region of sort of 50 billion revenue organizations plus.
Yeah.
So I kind of consult and do photography. So I was always kind of bringing those elements of sort of talking from consulting or talking from creativity or marketing into my content, and had run several Instagram accounts over that period, and nothing really kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because the concerted effort wasn't there. It was more a case of I couldn't really find the voice that I wanted, and there was always kind of something missing in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when lockdown happened, I kind of was looking at these 4 walls and I was like, you're not going to be leaving the house for a year now. That thing you want to do, which is, taking that last element into your content, which is the sort of unbridled Dan element, I guess you call it, what I now refer to as a fearless step, but taking that element into my content and really kind of answering that last piece of the content to say, what does that look like when you go all in, right?
Mhm.
What does content look like when you go all in?
Right.
Like unrelenting, all your chips on the table, kind of go all in. And I kind of made a commitment at the beginning of 2020 to do that and to see what that looked like. And fortunately, people responded to it and it worked. And now I'm carving out a new business called Social Boom, which is our membership, which teaches people how to do exactly that, grow their Instagram, but do it in a way that is, personal and authentic, and ultimately helps people break through significant barriers to, achieve really significant things for themselves, first and foremost, but for their own impact as well.
Oh, interesting. And you also have a really cool feed, the reds, the blacks, the
Yeah.
yellows, and the whites.
Yeah.
I understand that's a really cool personal branding, and to stand out from the social media perspective and a brand recall. But is this the secret recipe to also increase followers? And why should one really create a brand identity for themselves?
I think people overcomplicate branding. The purpose of branding from a social media perspective is a person comes to your account and you have 3 seconds to get them to follow you before they go somewhere else, right? They're not going to come back and check you out again. You've got 3 seconds to get them to follow you. So what you're trying to do from a branding perspective is say to that person, I'm put together, right? I talk about something consistent. I know my stuff. I can add a lot of value to you. And compared to the 99 other people you've looked at today, which are all over the place and talking about random stuff, I can deliver you something predictable and high value every single day.
Mhm.
So it's not about being the best or the cleanest or the best designed. It's not a design competition. I think too many people, particularly in the carousel community, everyone's trying to outdo each other from a design perspective. It's not about that. It's about, does someone who lands on your page look at it and go, this guy's different and he's put together and he's consistent and there's a lot of value here. And if I don't follow him, I'll never see him again. And I don't want that because, whether I want to digest what he does now or 3 weeks from now, I don't want to lose track of this particular person. That's all you're trying to do from branding. Everything else is a whole lot of fluff, right? So it's like, if you can just tie what you do together more, then you're just going to convert more people that visit your profile, because all that effort that you're putting into content and generating attention, if you're not converting that attention into a follow or leads or sales or whatever, then you're always going to feel like, what's the point? If you've got no growth and no sales and no leads, but you're putting hours and hours of content in every single day, you're not going to last in the long run. So it's about making sure that you have the highest probability of conversion when you get there. You can't land on my page, right, and go, there's not a ton of value here. That's impossible. You can land on it and go, I don't like this guy. This guy's weird. That's fine. That's part of it. Like, I want you to, if you don't get me or don't like me, then I don't want you to follow me. It's fine. Like, I have loads of people unfollow me every day. So that's fine. But what you can't deny is when you come to my page, there's a ton of value there.
Right. And you also put your face into the content. And that's another conversation which a lot of people contemplate whether, especially in the carousel part, when you said a lot of people do a designing competition with each other, right? They have the colors and their fonts in place, but you love to put your face in there. And do you think it adds value there? And more importantly, I would love to understand, how do you shoot yourself in so many different expressions? When do you plan all these?
I don't. Well, I'll take the face bit first, right? If you go and are you married or have a girlfriend, maybe, right? No. Okay. Well, go to your mum's phone, right? Go to her Instagram, look at her Instagram, and there's not going to be a single carousel there, is there? Right? It's going to be, bloggers and mums and family and loads of stuff.
Right.
Pictures of people, right? I don't know what happened to the carousel community that the people disappeared, right? Normal Instagram is not you hiding behind a design. That is not normal Instagram.
Right.
People think it's normal because they're immersed in the carousel community. This is not normal. Not showing your face is not a normal thing to do, right?
Right.
That is a decision you've made to not do it. But the natural behavior is, yes, you would show your face. On Facebook, you post pictures of your family and your friends and the stuff you're up to. And if you weren't just trying to grow this thing from a business purpose, you'd have a separate personal Instagram account where there would be pictures of you, right?
Right.
So why then have you chosen to remove your own face from your own content? I don't know. And yes, of course, you can say, well, it's because, I'm a designer and I don't like showing my face. I'm an introvert or whatever. It's like, yeah, but I bet you've got a personal profile where I can see pictures of you.
Right.
That's public information. So I can find pictures of you. Your face is old news. It's like, I can find pictures of you.
Right.
So, I kind of like specifically, came into the Carousel community. I deliberately came into the Carousel community as a spot, identified it as a place where I can make an impact, not because there's a lot of growth in the Carousel community, but because number one, there was no personal brand running through the Carousel community. Like even the guys at the top now, they do have pictures of themselves, but I don't know if you've been around long enough, but a year from now, there was no personal brand in the Carousel community at all. So I saw, well, hey, I can jump straight into this Carousel community and completely disrupt it. And that was the plan from the start. I'm not here to grow per se. I'm here to disrupt. My content's designed to disrupt. It's not designed to get tons and tons of followers, right?
Right.
So, it's always got my face on it because I treat it like a social post. It would have my face on it. The fact that I can now mess around and do funny poses and play around with it because my posts give me that opportunity is just a bonus. But, I'm not one of those, I'm like, no one puts baby in the corner kind of guys. Like, you're not going to not see my profile. I'm trying to build out a brand. I'm trying to build out trust and affinity with me. You can't do that if you don't show your face. I mean, you can, but, for example, name me 5 famous graphic designers in history. And that's not to say that they're not there.
Yeah.
And there are obviously great people.
Right.
But if that's all that you do, if you want your name to be known,
right,
they're not going to know your name if you don't show your face. They're not going to recognize you. And the irony is a lot of people talk about, oh, hey, I want impact while simultaneously hiding themselves away.
Right.
For me, the way I describe personal brand is a removal process. I actually, people say build your personal brand. I don't like that term. I think it's actually the wrong way around. You don't build a personal brand. You remove the blockers that prevent your personal brand.
Right.
Because it's about, well, what are you showing me or not showing me?
Makes
so that's why I'm all over the place. Like, you come to my profile, it's like, there's 1,000 pictures of Dan.
and how do you plan that, really?
Well, my content creation, there's 2 ways that I kind of create my content. One of them is something that I call thematic thinking. So I take what happens to me in my everyday, and then I apply that into my content through my content pillars. So you're probably familiar with the concept of content pillars, right? Mine are, branding, marketing, and fearless. Those are my 3 content pillars.
Right.
So I kind of take my learnings from my everyday and apply them into my content pillars. And to give, yesterday's post was a really good example of that.
Right.
Live Rooms comes out, and I was like, well, I've been watching a lot of Cobra Kai. Why don't I just use Cobra Kai as a metaphor for Live Rooms, and then take the 3 rules of Cobra Kai.
Right.
Was it strike first, strike hard, no mercy, right? And then just apply that through an Instagram lens. Like, what does strike hard look like when it comes to Instagram lives?
Right.
What does that look like? Well, that looks like scheduling. That looks like impact, right? That looks like, running things at the best time and ensuring the highest impact and the most people arrive and all that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
You can see how the thematic thinking, which is, I've got a thing I'm thinking about, when you apply it through your content pillars, becomes quite linear. I don't do a lot of content research. I just kind of think thematically and go, what's going on with me? And then I put it through. And then the last element is I ramp up the feeling in my content. I'm very connected to the feeling of my content. Feeling being the feeling of the outcome that is created as a result of the thing that I'm teaching you.
Right. Right.
So, and I think this is the bit that people miss. It's like people are like, oh, here's the 5 ways to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very dry. It's like, oh, here's just a list of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all very dry and not very actionable. And it doesn't, and when I say action, either someone applying it practically or reacting to it and evoking some kind of reaction. It's all very dry. And I kind of, again, found a niche there to say, well, if I really connect into the feeling of the thing, so that for that Cobra Kai one, right? The feeling of Cobra Kai is way over the top aggression. It's all very teenage angst and over the top aggression, right?
Right.
Well, I'll put that into my content then, won't I?
Right. Makes sense.
Like, and so I connect with the feeling, and that's what gives it the originality, because no one can replicate the way you feel.
Mm-hmm.
How did I feel when I found this tip or found this outcome or found this tutorial or whatever? How did I feel? You'll find it differentiates you a lot.
Right. Absolutely. And that's very evident in the way you present your content. So, let's talk about rooms, because we are already into that conversation. With the effort of doubling up the game for the platform with more than, now allowing up to 3 people in the room, what's your take on it? And how can someone maximize this conversation there, and who should use it, and how can businesses maximize this entire potential?
There is, of course, the collaborative element of, hey, I could now get 4 influencers in the room instead of 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily sure that adds more value from a room perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does kind of like a 4-way conversation add a lot more value than a 1-to-1? Maybe. I don't know. It depends what you're talking about, really.
Yeah.
For example, me and you could go into a lot deeper conversation as a 1-to-1 than if 4 of us were here.
Yeah.
So, there's obviously the collaborative opportunity, but for me, the big opportunity is getting more of your community in, right? And like doing a chat panel and being like, hey guys, I'm talking about personal brand today. Anyone who wants to talk about it, let me jump you in, and we'll do around the table Q&A, and we'll do sort of a rolling panel.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like, I don't know whether you're on Clubhouse, right? Clubhouse kind of does this organically within what it works. People come in, they ask a question, it gets answered by the panel, then they drop out, another person comes in, and so on and so forth.
Right.
As a system, that's very powerful for growth, because every time someone joins you, they alert their own followers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They ping their own followers. They go, hey, Dan's going live with somebody else. Yeah. So the more people you can turn over through your rooms, the more followers you'll get.
Mm-hmm.
Now, lives aren't particularly effective for follower gain. All in all, they're not actually that great.
Mm-hmm.
But, they're good authority and they're good for repurposing content. So it's all the conversation. I kind of, I talk about Instagram as a TV channel.
Mm-hmm.
So think of the different elements of Instagram as your personal TV channel that you control.
Mm-hmm.
And you have stories, which are like your sort of documentaries. You have your post feed, which are like your core programming about different topics. You have your reels, which are like your ads. Right. And you have your lives, which are like your, chat shows or chat panels, or your radio show. Right. Depending on how you're doing it, right? They all blend into the same thing. So it's not so much about which one is best. It's more about how can you bring different elements of you to the table to differentiate your feed and your activity, to give people more than just a wall of posts, different ways to interact with you.
Mm-hmm. Right. You segregated the content and the features within Instagram very beautifully. Now, talking about reels, stories, the feed, tutorials, tips and hacks, live sessions, interacting with others. There's so much to do, right? How does one really plan their time smartly on Instagram, and where should they invest time, and how much should they create on a daily, weekly basis, according to you? Let's understand your process in this whole content creation method in the last 9 months. If you could share that part of it, it helps segregate content with time.
Yeah. There is no hard and fast rule to how much you should or shouldn't be on it. Just whatever you do it consistently, right? So you need to start smaller and then see what it is you're capable of as you kind of scale up. But randomly showing up on random days is going to hurt you. And the more you disrupt that habit, the more difficult you're going to find it in the long run. You want to focus on doing something consistently and then, showing up in a way that's consistent. It's like, because the way the algorithm works is it rewards you for interactions. So if someone interacts with your content, then it's going to serve you up to that person tomorrow. And if someone doesn't interact with the content, then it might not. If you show up randomly, you disrupt that person's ability to be able to interact with your content. They don't know when you're going to turn up. Whereas if you turn up at the same time every single day, they're going to be like, oh, Dan's going to be around soon. Let's see what Dan's got going. They're more likely to interact with your content. And therefore, the number of people that you're pushed out to is going to remain more consistent. So you need to find a way to create a process that you can sustain. Exactly what you post is up to you. But an important part of all of this is content is not enough. Good content is not enough. You have to engage with the community a significant amount of time more than you actually create your content. A lot of engagement in a community is what is regarded as distribution. So many people spend so long on their content and then they do zero distribution.
Right.
And then they're like, why doesn't anyone like it? Why don't I get any likes? Why don't I get any comments or whatever? It's like, you haven't told anyone that thing exists. It's not that they don't like it. They don't even know it exists. Right. And so you have to put that as an equal balance to post and distribute and take the time to do that. Right. And then you need to then slot it into what's your availability. And depending on your availability will depend on the type of content you want to create, right? If you're saying, well, look, I've only got an hour a day for Instagram, there's no way you're going to be able to do a carousel and engagement every single day within that hour. It's possible.
Right.
So maybe carousels aren't for you. Maybe they're not. Or maybe you need to do them every other day and engage, every other day. But you have to do both. So you have to find a way to do both.
Do you plan this in advance or do you do it on a daily basis?
I have lots of content that I have upfront planned in a calendar. And then what often happens is I decide to do something completely different on the night. So it's there. And then I'm like, because I'm very feeling led, I make to my gut. So if my gut tells me, something might be good and I should make it, then I make it. I try and make it as quickly as possible before my brain's had a chance to question it so far. So, if my gut thinks that might be good, then I try and make it. So because I'm, so I have stuff up front, but if I get a feeling around something and I think it's fun or I get the energy, then I might make something, on the spot. If I'm feeling like really high energy, then I might choose to, make something new that's reflective of my energy. If I'm feeling a bit low energy, I might not release a super high energy video that night, It's very feeling oriented. But the point is, I'm not reactive. When you become too reactive, that's it. Because you're creating this vulnerability in your workflow. If anything happens, your workflow is going to fail. Like, you have to try and get to a point where you're proactive. Because when you're proactive, you make the time. If I'm proactive and I already have a post made or already know what I'm going to make and I can make it quickly, then I have the extra time to do the engagement. If I'm reactive and I squeeze that post out, then I'm exhausted and knackered. There's no way I'm then going to put in another hour of engagement, is there?
Right. That's true.
You have to manage the process.
And do you also have creative bad days or, creative block?
Yeah. I don't tend to get creative block. You definitely get low energy days, but energy is created rather than found. You can, if you want to kind of create energy, you can go for a walk, change your environment, listen to some music, or you can create your own energy. And equally, my content is designed to create interactions that give me energy. I want people to DM me and go, oh my God, Dan, that was hilarious. That gives me energy, right? So I design my environment to give me the energy I want, which is why I create the content that I do. It's designed it's for you guys, but it's I get as much out of it as you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think, so many people, they're designing for growth, but it doesn't give them what they want. Like, they're showing up every day. They're not that passionate about the content. They're not even that interested about it. Like, they know they've got other stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not very passionate about DMing with their people and engaging and all that stuff. And it's like, if you created a different environment, you might have that energy. Like, I love getting in my comments. It's fun, just messing around. Like, when was the last time you saw me leave a serious comment? Like, very rarely.
Right. True.
Very rarely. Yesterday was funny because I had my Cobra Kai post.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the end of the carousel, it's like, it says, don't be a pussy, hit the heart, right? Because they say that a lot on Cobra Kai. They keep calling each other pussies all the time. And then in my comments, I'm just there kind of like yelling at people in my comments. Like, it's funny. Like, it gives me energy. Again, I'm designing the environment. If I design my content so that all of my comments are like super serious,
Mm-hmm.
like I make super serious content for super serious comments, and I don't get energy from that, again, I'm not going to like the process.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So my key recommendations are: find a way to not be reactive, do what you can do based on your own availability, right? Don't overwhelm yourself, and design your content around the response that you want.
Right. Makes sense. I'm going to get into the carousel mode again and put a text to it asking you 5 ways people can then grow their followers basis our conversation. And why do you think people are actually not investing time in it to achieve that at this point of time?
Well, so in the Carousel community, we've basically shot ourselves in the foot because, we all support each other and we help grow, but at the same time, the people that we grow are other Carousel creators. So, it's not necessarily the most diverse audience, let's say, right? And at the same time, we've created this content format, which is like really overly demanding. To say that you need to create a post, you need to spend 2 hours to create a post on Instagram every single day is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Right.
It's ridiculous.
True.
99.999% of the rest of Instagram is just taking a cool photo and telling a story, and it's like they're done for the day. I'm sat here on my Mac working for 2 hours, desperately trying to work out what the best and most impactful content is for the day, right? It doesn't have to be that way, and you can choose what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Carousel community growth is growth from other Carousel creators. And I think it's important to understand that what the Carousel community is one massive engagement group. I don't think enough people acknowledge that, but it is. You see it, right?
I do, right.
It's very reciprocal.
True.
It's all very well meaning.
Mm-hmm.
They're all great people. They're amazing people. It's an amazing community. Everyone's trying to help each other and grow each other, and they're dropping comments or whatever. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it is, for all intents and purposes, an engagement group.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's just massive. It's so big. It's not like a pod. It's literally, in my estimates, about 200,000 people, roughly. But it is. So if you want to grow in the Carousel community, the answer is just make carousels and then engage with the commenters on carousels,
right,
and you'll grow because they're going to follow you and engage with you because that's what the Carousel community does.
Mm-hmm.
Does that strategy translate to the 99.99% of the rest of Instagram? The answer is no.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Another thing that I think is important for people to understand is, like, just because you can grow a big Carousel account doesn't mean you can grow a big any other account. It's not the same. Doesn't grow the same. So the goal is, of course, to make good content, high value adding content. Your content strategy should be a key proponent of what you do, and, to continue to evolve that content. And that's why the Carousel community works. It's because the content's very high value adding. But until you get outside of the Carousel community, it's not really appreciated as much as it could be. Because everyone in the Carousel community is working just as hard as you.
Right.
And they're all producing amazing stuff. And they're all going to tell you you're great, even if you're not.
Right.
So the important thing is, if you're going to make that kind of stuff, get out into the wider world and show the wider world just how incredible that is. Because for anyone who's not immersed in the Carousel community and comes across your profile, they're going to look at it and go, whoa, holy shit, this is nuts. Look how much value there is here. This is crazy. Any carousel person who comes to your profile, it's like, oh yeah, another carousel, swipe, 2 hours work, whatever, we're done. So the answer to the question, well, how do you grow is, you create good content, focus on, you doing what works with your content, look at your analytics and keep doing what works. And then get the word out there, distribute your content through engagement.
Right.
Get into commenting, get into hashtags, get into properly giving your content the time and the effort that it deserves. It's such a shame when someone spends 2 hours on a carousel and then they do no engagement. And it's like, that carousel was really good. But they blame themselves. They say, well, maybe it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it must be me. I've got to work harder and harder and harder. They put more and more and more and more time into the content. And it's like, it was fine. It was great the first time. You just didn't tell anyone about it.
Mm-hmm.
So my real recommendation is, make great content and then focus on outreach. I think too many people are looking inwards. You have to go and meet new people doing outreach, right? If you send 100 voice memos a day in the DM to new people, you'll probably make 70 followers a day.
Interesting.
Because you will, because you'll be like, hey, who's this guy? He sent me a voice memo. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to follow him. He's taking the time, right?
Right.
So the question is, are you willing to do that? It's not a question of growth and algorithm and all this stuff. It's like, if you just did that every day, you'd grow.
Makes sense. Absolutely. And when you talk about distribution, does this also include Instagram ads as a part of your strategy to?
Yeah. Why the hell not?
Right. And do you recommend people still invest in it, or in their process of content creation believe that while doing the other things like the comments, the DMs and the other things can organically also grow without Instagram ads? Do you think that's a possibility?
So I've been quite a vocal proponent of ads in my feed. My 10K post was entitled How I Grew Doing What the Fuck I Wanted. And within that, I talk about how I ran ads. Ads are just a way for you to get the name out there, right? Too many people are martyrs about organic growth. I don't understand it. It's like, you're not going to get a medal for it. No one cares. Nobody cares. Right? Oh, you grew that all organically. Great. I didn't. And I worked half as hard as you. I just worked smarter, right? Ads are ads. Like they just push. When I say ads, it could be like a full blown story ad, or it could just be you promoting posts. So they just push your stuff out to new people. I don't recommend running a lot of ads in the very early days. You do need to get some core momentum and build up a core community. You don't want to kind of shoot your engagement rate in the foot too soon, right? What you get with ads is new people. They're not going to be as active as the people that you're investing time into.
Right.
So, you should be considering when you use ads and whether that time is appropriate and looking at your overall figures. But Instagram is an ad platform. You go through every 5th story you look at on Instagram is an ad. Every 4th post you look at on Instagram is an ad. Like, do you want to be there or do you want to not be there? It's up to you.
Then in that case, how much do you think should one invest or save for on a monthly basis as an investment for the Instagram ads? What's the kind of budget that they should look at?
$5 a day.
Right.
$5 a day, if your profile's good and you're going globally, will get you 80 to 100 followers a day on autopilot.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of them will be India-based. What ads do is they look for the lowest cost per conversion. And India right now is just an area that converts cheaper from an ad perspective. Also, India's just the best thing that's ever happened to Instagram. So, you guys are just the best. I don't think Instagram was on its way out, and then India came in and was like, look at all the amazing activity and people. It's like, I love it.
Right.
I absolutely love it. There's such a vibrant group of people. I love you guys, every single one of you. So, it's good. To be fair, if your ads end up in India because you're going worldwide, you'll actually get a lot of engagement out of. So it's up to you which country you choose and how much you get out of it. But if you were going for cheapest CPC and it was a story ad, 15 seconds, and literally in my story ads, I just say, hey, interested in learning about how to grow your Instagram and market your Instagram? Swipe up right now and hit that follow button. That's it. It's literally me holding my phone, 15-second recording. You'll get 80 to 100 followers a day.
Right. And Then what really gives you a kick? Is it the followers number, or is it the saves, the DMs, the comments? What really pleases you from the content effort that you put in?
Oh, what I do for myself.
None of those numbers really matter. It's
They
obviously.
matter. Look, anyone who says numbers don't matter, it's just not true, right? And anyone who's like, oh, don't look at your followers. Well, yeah, but you are going to look at your followers. That number's in front of you all day, every day. And everybody probably checks their follower stats like 10 times a day. And it's like, you should be looking at your follower count, right? You should be thinking about your growth in a constructive way, not in an obsessive, self-deprecating way, right? So, you should be looking at your growth and saying, oh, what's growing me right now? What do people like? What do people don't like? How can I learn from that? How can I continue to make good content for my community? Assuming you do all of that, just not at the cost of your own enjoyment in that content. There's a lot of stuff that I create that algorithmically makes no sense and doesn't grow my account, right?
Right.
Loads of stuff. My post yesterday, it's like, why are you talking about Cobra Kai whilst talking about live rooms? That's not going to help you algorithmically, Dan, is it? Like, it's not going to help you. No, but I enjoyed it, and this is my thing. Yeah, right. You come to my Instagram, you step into my world. Right? This is my world.
Right.
So I think you always want to be moving forward, but moving forward doing something that you enjoy. Right? How you class moving forward, sales and leads or DMs or whatever, is going to vary over that time. For me, a great day on Instagram is, a decent a post that I've really enjoyed, a nice little bump in growth, and hopefully some cool DMs, right? That's a good day.
Right.
If I can convert them to sales, even better. But, it's impact related. I think really the thing that's going to keep you on Instagram is when you really focus on your impact. How do you increase your impact? How do you increase the testimonials, the DMs, the real world impact? I've got a highlight which is just called love, which is just awesome DMs.
Right.
It's just hundreds of awesome DMs from people.
Right. Nice.
For me, I go back to that highlight quite often. If I'm ever feeling low energy or low motivation, I go back to that highlight and I remind myself why I'm here. This is why you're here, Dan. I'm not here for the algo, I'm not here for the content, not here for the growth or whatever. These voice messages, these DMs, these conversations, that's why you're here, right?
Right. Makes sense. Speaking about that design aspect of it as well, the highlights that you already spoke about, all the consistency as well, what we were speaking about from the feed point of view, the reels, even your profile picture, highlights and everything else. What are the most reliable content softwares that you use, or the design softwares that you use or recommend to use for people to create such kind of wonderful designs and consistent designs?
So I obviously take still a photo of myself, and then I use Lightroom to apply a preset to it. And then I use Photoshop to cut it out. And then I used to use PowerPoint mostly for my carousels themselves. I used to do a lot more design in my carousels. If you scroll down, you'll see fancy design in my carousels. And I am totally capable of doing fancy design within my carousels. I just don't want to. Right? My design has got simpler over 2020 and 2021. Because I didn't enjoy putting a whole ton of effort into making something look nice. Like, it just wasn't the element that I really enjoyed. Like, I enjoyed the video, and I enjoyed just making jokes out of it and making it funny. And what I realized was, I had the ability to be able to, I kind of lent on this sort of highly practical content element, right? So most of my carousels are like, want to achieve a particular outcome? Do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, they're very, very solution orientated. They're not like, here's a list of 15 different things. They're like, oh, here's an outcome. Here's the exact method. Here's the exact step. So from a design perspective, it made a lot more sense to make my design simpler, because that was the ethos of the content. The content was supposed to be crazy, simple, practical tutorials. If my design is all fancy, wancy stuff, it makes it harder for you to implement what I just told you. right? It actually detracts from the overall message because the design is in competition with the simplicity of the message.
Right. Makes sense.
So I kind of use pretty much, photo preset through Lightroom, cut out in Photoshop, and then put into Canva,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the whole thing.
Wow.
That's the whole thing. It's not any more complicated than that. I could use Illustrator. I'm trained in Illustrator, if I wanted to. But again, it just takes too long. It complicates the process.
Right.
And, whatever can give you the smoothest workflow to the outcome that you want is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one answer. What you should invest time in is whatever you do use, get really good at it.
Right.
And use the thing that creates the outcome for you in the fastest time possible. Forget all of the prestige of, I make it in Illustrator or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No one cares. Use whatever is whatever works. Like I use Canva. Canva's free.
Right. True.
I have Photoshop and After Effects and Illustrator. I have all of those applications, and yet I still use the free software
Mm-hmm. Right.
because it gets me to the result that I need in the fastest way. And that's it. That's all I care about.
Superb. Well done, Dan. That brings us to the end of our first segment of serious questions. And I'm moving on to a rapid fire round. I'm going to change the mood now.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Super. So, from your absolutely amazing post, which is your favorite post and why?
I think my favorite post was probably the Icky DMs post. That was really fun. So basically, I kept getting these random DMs all the time.
Right.
And they were just really lame. Like, I want to connect with you. Tell me your story. Or they just try and sell me directly. And they were all just really lame. And I made this sort of a series of skits in a video carousel called How to Not Be Icky in the DM. And the skits were actually really funny. I was quite pleased with it. And fortunately, it did well. So it would be that one, I think, would be my favorite one.
Nice. Then, which is the best or the funniest comment you have ever received on your post?
Oh, God, I can't remember any one comment specifically. I mean, to be fair, like all the comments that I receive are usually funny.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know if I have one specific comment on a post.
Mm-hmm.
There are some memorable DMs, and and the memorable DMs are the ones which is like, Dan, you've helped me show up on camera or create my first story, or you've helped me break out and do something, and I feel like a new person, or I feel invigorated and liberated. Those are the kind of things that kind of really resonate with me.
Right.
I'm not sure I have a one specific comment, to be honest.
Fair enough. Okay. What's the science behind the Instagram algorithm according to Dan?
According to me, it's just network. It's just network. Increase your network, you increase your exposure. That's it. So, just connect with more people,
Mm-hmm.
network with more people, relevant people, and you don't need to worry about the rest of it.
Right. Okay. Your favorite Instagrammers?
My favorite Instagrammers, I've got some sort of friends of mine that have been in a circuit, guys like Sales Change, Matty from Sales Change, and Tyler from the Tyler Archer, and people sort of in a circuit that I kind of, hang out with and have been quite, inspirational for me. Really, the people that, really kind of resonate with me are the ones that I've created a kind of a connection and a network with.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, it's generally those kind of key people that I would check out. Peter McKinnon, I don't know whether you've heard of Peter McKinnon,
Yes.
but he's basically my man crush. And Peter McKinnon's just incredible. He doesn't do it's just pictures on Instagram, but when you go over to his YouTube and watch his YouTube, Peter McKinnon and Cody Wanner are my two favorite creators,
Mm-hmm.
of all time. Not so much necessarily content on Instagram wise, but they are two people that you should go and check out.
Wonderful. Right. For people who want to, again, completely revamp their feed and get into the carousel, probably, but do you recommend them to revamp their profile or start fresh? How do they transform their feed considering today is day zero?
I would never, ever recommend anyone to start fresh.
Okay.
Because all of this is your journey, and whatever community you've built, with the exception of people that have bought followers, I would recommend you start fresh. But assuming you haven't bought followers, right? Everything that you've done is part of your story. If you scroll down my feed, you'll see all the crap posts that I did. That's all part of my story. And I wouldn't be here had I not made those things. And I'm not about to remove those. And equally, the people that believed in me when I was shit, why would I get rid of those people just because I want to do something different? Like, any community that you've built already, keep that community and just pivot and adapt. We all pivot and adapt. Again, you can scroll down my feed. You can see where my branding was. I had yellow and black branding for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I had no branding for a long time, and I had very different types of branding and colors. And a year from now, I'll probably have a completely different brand.
Right.
So I wouldn't say to anyone, start again. Like you've come this far, to be proud of your journey, be proud of what didn't work, because you're only here because of what didn't work.
Right. Makes sense. And final question, if Instagram shuts tomorrow, where will we see Dan more often?
It's an interesting question. Some people have asked me this one before. I was like, where would I kind of hang out? I was like, I will be starting a YouTube channel, which I have done in the past. It's just Instagram's pretty heavy on the resource right now. So it would be on YouTube, probably ramp up the podcast a little bit more with that time, and probably be hanging out a bit more in Clubhouse, I would reckon, overall. And on YouTube Shorts.
Right.
I'd be posting a bunch of stuff on YouTube Shorts. But that's because I'm a video creator, right? So they're video platforms. YouTube is ludicrously hard to grow on.
Super. Great stuff, Dan. That ends the rapid fire segment for us. Absolutely great answers. Give yourself a pat. And now moving into the last round of questions. We take this one from the social media platforms. And this question comes from Raj Manohar, who asks, I want to start selling my courses like you do. I'm into the field of finance. What are your recommendations for content formats to sell courses? How do I promote it on Instagram? And more importantly, how can I approach various creators, influencers to give a shout out? I do use DMs, but mostly goes unnoticed. How can I do this entire process differently?
Well, for the very astute followers of mine, you may notice that my content is actually courses.
Right.
So sometimes you'll scroll down and you'll see like I've done like a whole course, Instagram course within my content, part 1, part 2, part 3.
Right.
What I also plan within my content is I actually think of my content as a course, but I randomize the order so it doesn't feel like a course. So for example, right now, I'm teaching you 3 different courses simultaneously, just in a random order. To you, it doesn't feel that way. To me, it makes total sense. And for me, from a content perspective, it's so much easier to think of. So if you're like, so for the next month, I'm pivoting soon. For the next month, I'll be looking at marketing and I'll be teaching you some marketing stuff. So for the next month, you're going to see stuff like funnels and emails and landing pages and whatnot.
Right.
And I already know like all of the posts because I just think of it of like, well, if I was making a course, what would I teach you? Oh, I can just write that on a whiteboard in a few minutes. And now I've got an entire month of posts laid out. It's so easy. I wish more people would think this way because it's so much easier. Then what I do is I just take that list of 30 and then I randomize it. And of course, what does this do? Well, this shows that number 1, I know what I'm talking about. Number 2, I'm able to teach it. And number 3, guess what? I've got it in the right order over here in my link in bio where you can buy it. Because no one's going to piece it together in the right order. And even if they did, they'd be missing, all the video demos and everything else. I'm only taking elements of these things. So I would say, my recommendation is, start passing out your course in content, because then people will look to you and say, oh, Dan knows how to grow his Instagram. Dan knows how to grow his, how to create courses and stuff, because I know that because he's literally taught me to do it.
Right.
That's how I know. So literally make your content around doing the thing that your course is about. And then, of course, focus on converting people in the DM. In terms of influencer shout outs, create lives and guest posts around some of the key pain points of the thing that you answer in your course so that you have a clear segue into your course. If I've got a course around personal branding, then I might create a live with someone else who does personal branding called, how to show up on social. And then every time someone gets a question like, Dan, what's your answer to this particular thing? I can go, well, here's my answer. And guess what? If you go to my bio, I've got a course there that's also going to fill that in for you. Perfect, right? It's a seamless segue.
Right.
I often find it ironic that course creators create content that has nothing to do with their courses.
Yeah.
Because they're worried about giving it away. I can't talk about that. I can't give it away. It's like, well, you're not giving it away, because I show you the what on my Instagram. I don't show you the how. I don't show you the mindset. I don't take you through the buttons to click, right? If I show you, hey, here's how to create a simple email funnel, we all know that there's way more to email funnels than just what I can convey in a carousel. But now I know how to do it. If you ever need an email funnel, you'll be like, oh yeah, Dan has a thing on that.
Super. Fantastic stuff, Dan. That brings us to the end of today's show. I got to say, all the vibe that comes from your content resembles in person as I speak to you as well.
It has to. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense otherwise, does it?
Absolutely. Superb, Dan. And thank you so much for educating us about Instagram and the hacks around it. Thank you for giving time. That's really valuable information that we have. And I hope you had a good time on the show. You enjoyed it.
Always. I love it, man. I love your content. And, you're going to be motoring through on this one as well. I love your graphics and stuff as well that you use. Awesome. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the very best. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Dan.
Take care.
Don't we hear it from thousands of creators that Instagram is easy? Well, it is. The only loophole is us following the basics to achieve it, like how Dan mentioned. I hope this episode adds value and makes it easy for you to reach 20,000 followers as well. If you have any questions on the same, you can write to me at deliberatetalks@gmail.com or connect with me on the social media platforms and the audio platforms. Join in next Monday for another episode with another guest. Until then, please take care of yourself and don't forget to inspire and be inspired.